Of the Ready Row USA podcast, where we feature the best of rowing news, interviews, gadgets, and gear from clubs, companies, and rowers like you across the country. We appreciate our live viewers on YouTube. Keep those questions and comments coming, and we'll get to as many as possible during the show. And to those of you watching or listening on your favorite podcast app, we also welcome your feedback. You're welcome to send us a message if you have a topic idea or you'd like to come on the show and share your rowing experiences. Just use the contact form linked in the show notes. Ready Row USA producer is Charlotte Pierce, and the people who make this podcast possible include executive producer Rebecca Carreau, associate producer Tara Morgan, senior correspondent Mark Wilson, and our regular correspondent Ryan Worth. Contributors include Reba Knickerbocker, Allison Polini, Veronica Platzer, and you.
Yeah.
Ready Row USA is part of the International Rowing.Chat network. Please visit the website to receive the notifications of upcoming shows, send in news tips, and join our growing community. All links are found in the show notes on your favorite podcast app or at our website at rowing.chat. And now, here's your host with today's episode. Hi, this is your host, Tara Morgan. Welcome to Ready Row USA. As I mentioned earlier, today's topic is all about the clubs. Good morning.
Good morning.
Hi, Ryan.
How you doing today, Tara?
I'm good. We're going to be getting today into the nuts and bolts of what makes a club work, from the smallest member-run club to medium-sized to large, giant rowing clubs with lots of programs. But first, a word about our fabulous sponsors who make this podcast possible.
Absolutely.
Ryan, why don't you read this one?
Okay. Randall Oarfoil is our first sponsor. They've got an ingenious way to avoid the problem of digging too deep with your oars. It's effectively increasing the efficiency of the oar. It's a glue-on, glue-off invention that goes on the top of any sweep or sculling oar and increases effectiveness. You can shop the special offers on our website, rowing.chat/sponsors.
Nice. And we've also got Oar Inspired. The clever engineers at Oar Inspired make it easy for you to video your crew. Their brilliant design is a sturdy tripod with suction cup feet, and it mounts onto the stern or bow deck of your boat. Read more at Rowing Chat. Sponsors Oar Inspired. All right, let's get into it.
All right.
So Ryan, let's talk about where we are. And let's say, where are you located right now?
I'm in Chattanooga, Tennessee.
Yeah, what's the club scene there? Have you got a lot of rowing clubs within range?
We do. Within about 10 miles of where I sit, we've got 3 different scholastic programs, 1 university club, a master's club, and a juniors community program.
Nice. Nicely done. Yeah, I'm in Seattle, Washington area, and I counted up from the peninsula, from the coast, all the way back inland. We have about 30 clubs operating at all levels of, from the Ancient Mariners, who are a long-time men's-only club, to the Kitsap Rowing Club, or just tiny, tiny little clubs. So we did this really, I don't know if people found this on our Masters Rowing International, but we did a really fun survey and just asked the people of Masters Rowing International, what's your club? Ryan, what were the options that people could choose?
Well, they had a few different ways to kind of quantify and then qualify the club. And it was basically boiling down into what kind of resources were available and kind of trying to, say the size of their club. So most of the respondents, over 100 of them, but about half are from small member-run clubs that have a modest building or boathouse. And so out of the respondents, which was a pretty good group, those seem to be the most common boathouse layout. It may be that also those respondents are the ones, or those members of those clubs are the ones most likely to be checking in and responding to the survey.
Exactly.
But, from there, we saw that medium member-run clubs with paid coaches, a boathouse, and some amenities, so maybe just a step up, if you will, from that small member-run with a modest building, was the second most common. And then with 21 votes, right behind that was large established clubs with buildings, racks, trailers, paid coaches, fundraising galas, multiple sculling and sweep programs, etc. And then the other 2 options were for folks that share a college or university boathouse.
Right.
And then those rowers out there who car top to the water's edge, along with a couple other options that had even less respondents. And it was kind of delving a little more into the medium and small size clubs and kind of the layout within those.
Right. I found in my experience, most rowing clubs are also nonprofits. They are also incorporated nonprofits, we'll get to that in a little bit when we talk about how to get involved in your club. But I feel like that nonprofit model is really popular. We also have a club here in Seattle that's a for-profit club that has a nonprofit foundation, but runs as a business, which I think is also kind of an interesting model. So we're going to dive in. We've got some really fun photos, and we've got some really fun clubs that we just decided to spotlight. So let's hit it. So The next slide is the Upper Valley Rowing Club from Dartmouth, New Hampshire. Ryan, have you been to New Hampshire before?
I've been to New Hampshire in the winter.
Gorgeous.
It's beautiful then. I bet it's even better in the spring when you can
ridiculous. Totally great. And these guys get to row on a river. And I think this is kind of interesting. Who gets to row on a river? Who gets to row in a lake? Who gets to row in coastal, right? So we do coastal here on Vashon. These guys get to row on this Upper Valley River. And I've been tracking their Facebook page for a while. They do some beautiful stuff. They've got some fun stuff. And you can see from this photo that they have to put their docks in and out, right?
That's a very Northeast thing to do, right? Is to have to take the dock out at the end of the fall and put it back in once the ice is gone. Yeah.
That's pretty cool. It looks like a lot of work, and I bet they require a lot of volunteer hours with their members, right?
Yeah.
We have a fun quote from one of the rowers there named Rowan Carroll, who's actually one of our big fans of the podcast. And Rowan says, "We love our slice of paradise on the Connecticut River. We'd love to have a boathouse and a permanent home, but we're incredibly lucky to be able to rent space from the town of Dartmouth, looks like, on the riverfront. And they have club pinerts and love to have guest rowers. So come on over anytime." And that sounds great. I mean, who wouldn't want to go to New Hampshire and experience some rowing? I'm assuming they shut down for the winter based on the dock situation, but
yeah, definitely. And they're going to be in a similar climate to like the Craftsbury Sculling Center.
Oh, true.
Which, some of our national team athletes train there year round, utilizing the cross country skiing. And so you run into a lot of that in New Hampshire as well.
Oh yeah, that's actually true. Here in the Northwest, we mix and match cross country quite a lot. Because we can just go 45 minutes into the mountains. I want to move on to the next one, which I affectionately consider the Big Kahuna, which is the CRI in Boston. What's your experience with CRI?
Just seeing it, being up there for the Charles, visiting, poking my head around. I've got a couple friends who have worked there now or have in the past. And it is quite a place.
It's a cathedral.
It really is.
Cathedral of rowing.
And
right?
I think a lot of people in club operation type roles, either board presidents or coaches, look at it as a benchmark for a lot of things. And one of them is definitely the facilities, right? Because they have two distinct boathouses on one big property. They have space for personal boat storage. They host fundraising galas. They have event space as part of their boathouse for added income and versatility. They have several levels of sweep and sculling classes. They've got a very extensive winter training offering. They do workshops. They have coaching instruction workshops. They have full curriculums for all kinds of stuff like that.
They have like a master's degree. And did you know that, have you seen the outside of the building when you walk up to it? It looks like, a spaceship landed. And actually the sides of the building open to air the building out.
Yep.
It's like, it just my favorite is what I call the singles chapel, that glass building that's to the side where it looks like a chapel when you walk into it. Well, CRA also is really incredible in terms of their workshop space. So if you're a fix-it nerd and you're going to the Charles, go visit those guys at the workshop at CRI. The doors are open all day. They're there all day for Boston. So go check that out. It's kind of amazing.
It is really wild. And actually the Wooden Boat University there in Port Townsend near you is the only other place I've been to that seemed that really held my attention quite as much as the workshop at CRI. And granted, that's all traditional wooden boat construction, but it's the same. We would definitely be remiss to forget to mention that CRI's adaptive and inclusive programs and veterans programs are off the charts with participation in the way they're ran, robust in, and then their staff of coaches. It's a great group of people to be around.
Yeah, absolutely. They tend to attract really solid folks. They have that coaching. It's not a master's degree, but it's the coaching leadership training. And I think what they're doing is they're basically saying, here's this bar of building, venue, programs, how to burst at the seams and still do it kind of beautifully. And then they're putting out beautiful, great new coaches into the world, which I'm a huge fan of coaching leadership and coaching development, because we need to keep that pipeline fresh. Anyway, we all love CRI. I wish there was one on the West Coast, and maybe someday there will be. But I want to move on to the middle of the U.S. to Greater Dayton Rowing Association in Dayton, Ohio. Shout out to Dayton. Looks like we've got some car toppers and we've got a floating dock, according to my photo here.
Yep.
Have you been to Dayton, Ohio?
I've been to Dayton, Ohio.
Nice.
And like a lot of people that row on rivers, the Miami River can get dry. And so they deal with that. It can also have a lot more water than you really want. So you've got some ebb and flow season to season with what you've got. Senior correspondent Mark Wilson has done a few camps there over the years as well. And you're right, Tara. They have some space in a boathouse that it's pretty good. I think for a lot of people, they look at a boathouse like Greater Dayton and like, that is awesome. And for folks who are doing a lot of grassroots, if you will, club development, that's there. I think Greater Dayton's a good example of a club that has some roots and but they're at capacity. And so they do have members and rowers in the community who opt to car top. And there's a lot of different reasons why people will do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Not everybody wants to store their private shell at a public boathouse or a boathouse where there's members, right? Because the opportunities for misuse or damage or, just something not being able to get out on the water if there's like 30 kids trying to get on the water when you want to go. So it's good to have that option. Here on Vashon Island, we have both private boat storage and just the club. But one of the slides we're going to go to is a city parks facility, which I want to get into the relationship of a city parks facility to the rowing community. So here in Seattle, we have that as well. So next slide up is Green Bay, Wisconsin, which sounds very cold for rowing. I'll be honest.
Only some of the year. I think New Hampshire's got lower temperatures, and actually Boston might too. I'm not sure. Don't quote me on that. But it looks up there.
Beautiful. Is the Green Bay program out of a university? That looks like a really nice building.
I wish Mark was here to talk to us about that. I don't think they are. And it isn't La Verte the club that also has the shell trailer that's completely enclosed?
Ooh, very sexy.
It's got two little. It's one heck of a honker, because it's big enough for eights. It's got two little boxes that stick out of the bow of this enclosed trailer that make it long enough for eights down the center.
Wow. Well, I think,
I forget the logistical setup there and the reason why they wanted an enclosed trailer, because they row off of the trailer at least part of the year. And up there in Green Bay, they've got a few different bodies of water. And so I think they move around. And that's one of the things that, you mentioned people not wanting to store private boats in a clubhouse. A lot of times it might be just because they like to go row on different bodies of water.
Totally. They like to go explore. Like we have salt water here. Like someone could just car top, go to Seattle and get on a beautiful lake and have a great experience, or a river. We have rivers too, but.
Absolutely. Hopping across Lake Michigan from Green Bay.
Oh, yeah.
Let's go over to Traverse City.
Oh, I've been to Traverse City. Have you ever gotten any of those Petoskey stones in Traverse City? Those stones, the shells, the prehistoric. So cool. Yep. So cool.
That whole area was covered by glaciers.
Yeah, right.
And it is really cool. Traverse City is a city perched up there on the northern point of the main peninsula of Michigan that has a few different rivers that feed into the bays that are really quite large, and then they go out into Lake Michigan. So you get every single type of flat water rowing condition you could want right there in Traverse City.
That looks like such a nice spot. And Michigan has some great rowing. They've got some great folks doing stuff over at University of Michigan, the Ann Arbor. Go Blue, the Wolverine workout. If people are riffing off of the Wolverine workout.
Yep. Yeah, because men's and women's programs at the university is strong, and they've got a big master's program that shares that space. And then Michigan is super diverse. You've got Division III colleges like Adrian that are new, and the administration loves rowing, and they're investing in it because they see those student athletes as being really positive. City like Grand Rapids that has like 9 or 10 different high school programs in a city the size of Knoxville, Tennessee.
Yeah.
And so a lot of diversity in Michigan. The Traverse City Club, and you can see in their photo there, they're standing in front of their chain link fence. So there's boat trees inside a fence in the space they have. There's no boathouse facility or other things like that yet. But that's all you need, right? You just need access to your water.
Yeah, I wanted to riff off of something you were just talking about, which was the university aspect. When you have a big university that has a crew program, the likelihood of a private club starting as an offshoot of that is pretty high. So if you're in a community right now where you don't have a rowing club, but you're really interested, but your university has one, it's a great resource, don't you think?
Absolutely. Well, it can be. Sometimes everybody, and this is something that I think gets talked a lot about, is your different situations. When you start sharing space between user groups, I think that it's really important for people to put in writing what they need and what they want, and then come to agreements from there.
Exactly.
It's the kind of thing where it's like one friend of the program, usually a donor, right, with a university type situation, says, hey, do you have space for me to store, me and my wife's double? Then, okay, great, for that year. And then the next year there's a new coaching staff. And so then all of a sudden maybe it's a few years and there's a little bit of a master's community growing inside that boathouse. I think even right up front, you want to take a guess at where you may want to go with things.
Yeah, right now I'm in the process of revising a memorandum of understanding that I have with a club. So the CZOR is a private nonprofit club that rents space in an existing club, right? So we have a very clear understanding of hours, of storage fees, of all these different things. So for people out there who are interested in starting a club, or maybe you've got a club that's kind of fallen by the wayside and you're trying to revive a club, those kinds of agreements are really interesting to read and just kind of get some clarity around how a club runs, but also how to share space, because boathouses are really special spaces. They're usually on permitted water with docks. Docks are really difficult to get if you're a docking organization or a water launch organization here on Vashon Island. And there's a couple of clubs like that. So definitely hit up some of your favorite clubs and just ask for these resources. I think if you're going to start a club or you're going to revive your own club, there's tons of resources out there. We need to be sharing information a little bit more, I think, in how these clubs are run. So I have a question from one of our listeners. If I'm just moving to a new town or I'm traveling, what's a great way to connect with a club?
Well, I think it's just even to what we were talking about with club organization, people are going to be willing to share. So social media, the web, sometimes the web is hard to keep updated, so that's not always the most useful source, but making a connection. You reach out and you say, hey, I'm going to be in town for these days. Any chance I could get out in a boat? You want to go ahead and lead with an honest assessment of your personal ability so that you're not a second year rower getting thrown into, stroke seat of an 8 to go out and do competitive practice type of thing. But the chance to go see stuff like that. The last one I did was down in New Orleans, and they've got like 1,200 meters of straight water if you squeeze under the one bridge that separates the middle of it at the New Orleans Rowing Club. And it was really cool. And they were super gracious. They were like, would you like to take our club's top double? And it was like me and a guy from Nashville happened to be there on the same day. And it was just through we're guys that know each other from racing. And so that's how that one lined up. I think that's the best way to make that introduction, but you can cold call.
Yeah. And also, I think if you're moving to a place where there's a lot of different clubs, do a taste test of each of the clubs. You don't want to get into the position where you're boathouse hopping when you've made a significant financial commitment to a club, but really get a feel for it. Maybe get some questions together. So we're going to move to Lookout Rowing Club.
That's us.
That's you. Okay. So Lookout Rowing Club is where? Tell us about it.
Right in Chattanooga, Tennessee. Lookout Rowing Club and the Chattanooga Junior Rowing Association share a boathouse space that was constructed in the early 90s and first housed also a scholastic program at the Girls Preparatory School, the high school community program, the master's program, and the women's national team leading into the 96.
Wow.
And so it's a great facility. The waterway in Chattanooga, this is where the head of the Hooch race course is. The boathouse is on about the halfway point of the Hooch race course. You would not be able to wet launch there. It's part of the TVA system of the Tennessee River. So there's a lot of fluctuation up and down in water levels, season to season, and even through the day. And the shorelines are fairly channelized, so kind of steep and rocky.
Yeah.
So we got a video clip here from one of the club members.
Let's do this video clip right now. Who is this that's talking on this video?
This is Siobhan Duff. She's she's been a master's rower there in Chattanooga for quite a while. Nice.
So I'm going to come back to you real quick while we get that loaded up.
Okay.
So Siobhan, is she a coach over at that rowing club?
She does some coaching. Her and her husband both are really accomplished rowers. They're Canadians originally, and they've been combined. They have like 80 years of rowing experience. They started when they were pretty young, and their kids have rowed, and they've been board members. They've been presidents. They've been on the sidelines. They've been rowing parents. They've kind of done it all, and they've been around Lookout for a long time and watching some ebb and flow in politics and certain things, and then watching different coaches come through, the national team coaches through the 90s, Hartmut Bushbacher, Robert Espeseth, and then myself now more recently, and some of our other local coaches. The scholastic programs, and we have 3 head coaches at those 3 scholastic programs that are great coaches as well, not to mention other members of Lookout.
Well, something you just said about Siobhan and her experience, that sounds pretty typical, right? A master who maybe comes into rowing midlife, or after their kids are able to get up and feed themselves breakfast, kind of a typical master story, and then they just throw themselves in. They get really involved. They join the board. They become a coach. They teach the Learn to Row program. Their kids row. So this question comes from one of our listeners, and they're new to their club and they want to figure out how to get involved. And one of the questions they're asking is, "We're electing board members. Should I run?" What do you think about that?
Politics are everywhere, right? The expression "high school never really ends." There's some truth to that. And so I think that it's important, if you're falling in love with rowing, to keep rowing about the rowing. But boathouses are businesses, like you said, whether you're an established LLC or you're a nonprofit or you're a for-profit, it doesn't matter. And boathouses come in all shapes and sizes, but it's the people that really make the boathouse and the club. Yeah. And if you feel a vested interest in the club, then I say absolutely, put your name out there. You need a board that's made up of people with a lot of different backgrounds.
We're situated here on the Tennessee River, home of the head of the Hooch, which we are very proud, and we are co-sponsors. Charlotte asked me what are my goals with respect to rowing. My personal goals, to stay alive, as are most masters. We know we're not getting any faster, but it's about friendship. It's about mental health. If you want to talk about health, physical and mental, we always joke this business here keeps us out of jail and keeps us out of our local mental facility. With the stresses of work and family, that's what I think. For me personally, we do like to compete. We're still very competitive, but I think it's a more holistic, balanced view at this stage of the game. Lookout is a great little club. We have a lot of other rowing clubs within eyeshot of us. This, however, is our private school. This is our community-based club that encompasses a home for both masters and juniors. Jack Fish being the founder of our junior club about 30 years ago. giving it the mission of providing an accessible rowing experience to everybody in the community, regardless of age or socioeconomics. So if you have not got a tribe, we can be your tribe right here at Lookout.
So if we just called you up and said, I don't, and
what do I do?
I've got modest means and I would really love to start rowing.
Well, our dues are very modest. Apparently they haven't been increased in 20 years. And that's an issue. That's another interview. But there are learn to row programs. There are entry-level programs for children, youth. By children, obviously, I mean 14 and above. For masters of any age, we have people actively rowing in the club into their 70s. There are financial scholarship opportunities for our youth. So there really is a sincere intent to be inclusive. Also an adaptive program, I should add.
Thank you.
Hey, so that's awesome. What a great gal. I mean, I want to go row with her right now. Like, this is pretty, right? So I'm coming down, by the way, in December. I'm coming.
Good. We'll see you there. It's coin toss. It's either totally unrowable, freezing, and miserable, or absolutely beautiful. We had 3 weeks last February that were perfect.
Always the case. So I wanted to jump ahead on the slides. If we could get that slide up, that's the Mount Baker Rowing and Sailing Center. So,
you know a little bit about Mount Baker, don't you?
Yeah. So, when I first moved to Seattle, I got the bug back to row. And I happened to live overlooking Lake Washington. And on Lake Washington in Seattle is a club called the Mount Baker Rowing and Sailing Center. And what's unique about this club is that it's a municipal property. So it's a parks program. And I think this model is pretty prevalent in the bigger cities. And then sometimes, like over here on Vashon, we're part of the Vashon Parks District as well. But there's different infrastructures that go with that. Here's a picture of it. It is, bar none, it is a huge facility. We've got over 100 masters, over 100 juniors, sailing, kayak, canoe, like it's everything, right? It's a beautiful location. And I was a coach there for 10 years and teaching learn to row and got to see it grow. The reason I wanted to point out the municipal model is because sometimes those relationships with the more established infrastructures like Parks Department can be helpful and can be not, obviously. But who has access to the best water? Who has access to the best resources to get people on the water? So, and in terms of affordability, rowing is an expensive sport. We know that. But in terms of accessibility, money-wise, I found the parks program at Mount Baker to be a good example of ways to get involved, because I think that financial barrier is a big deal for people, paying monthly or annual dues and things like that.
Absolutely. I think for those, kind of going back to that one viewer question, the mission of rowing, if we can make it more inclusive, you're going to make your club better, right? So if you can figure out how to cross those financial barriers, make your club established, and then bring those who actually have that barrier in, that can be really powerful. The university club level is an interesting example. And I think masters clubs can learn a lot from the way different university clubs have become successful. But we're running short on time, Tara. We give ourselves more time to talk about all these different things.
Yeah. So if people have comments or questions, feel free to just hit us up. Both Ryan and I have a lot of experience with being both coaches and rowers in different kinds of clubs. And so if anybody has any questions like, hey, how's a way my club can do this better, or a resource, definitely hit us up for that. And reminder, we're going to be at the U.S. Rowing National Convention, Ready Row USA, live from U.S. Rowing. We're going to be having some fun over there, and we're going to be talking about topics like this. So come to the convention, come find us, have a snack with us. We're going to have some fun. So we're going to start with our outro, and our hashtag for today's show is...
No, I'll read it.
Oh,
I'm happy to read it. This is your producer, Charlotte Pierce, and we have an episode hashtag RRUSA Clubs for today, and that is something you can use on social media, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and we will search it out and find the hashtag and give you award rowing gadgets and gear and services.
Great.
We also have, we solicit input from our viewers and listeners. We'd love to have you use our club news form and our gadgets and gear form. They're both located on the show notes. And again, thanks to our fabulous sponsors. You can find the discounts and links at rowing.chat/sponsors. Our upcoming episodes are Wacky Wednesday, Rowing Gadgets and Gear, Going Coastal, and the USR convention preview that is Tara mentioned. I'm the producer of Ready Row USA. I have a publishing company called Pierce Press, and we are currently accepting manuscripts for Pedagogy Books, our alternative education imprint. So if you have an innovative coaching strategy or some other rowing related manuscript, please contact us. Show notes has the links. Our associate producer is Tara Morgan of Seize the Oar Foundation, the active Learn to Row Facebook group, and the Vashon Island Rowing Club, where she coaches and rows. Mark Wilson of All American Rowing Camp is our senior correspondent. And our newest member, Ryan Worth, is a coach at UT Chattanooga and a member and coach at Lookout Rowing Club at the Chattanooga Rowing Center on the mighty Tennessee River. And now we will sign off.
Yeah, thanks for joining us today, everybody listening at home or your cars or wherever you're at.
Yeah, this is our Saturday Night Live sign off. So Tara, feel free to dance.
Oh, come on, Tara. For the viewers.
Cheer dancing.
It's only 8
Thanks,
in the morning.
thanks to everyone for listening. And remember Wacky Wednesday next week. And we will see you and hear. You can hear us then. Thank you.
Thank you.
Cheers. Happy rowing. When are you guys rowing next?